So welcome to today. Today the focus will be starting with alternate nose breathing, and then we're going to be looking at poses for the lower back and also to help with digestion. And I find this sequence incredibly useful for many people because a lot of us suffer from lower back pain. And there are figures between 60 to 90% of people will suffer from lower back pain in their lives. And actually lower back pain is listed at the top of those work-related disorders that people have. So it's what people suffer the most from at work when they have any type of issue at work. And so the focus of yin, because yin has this focus on stretching the connective tissue, they've actually discovered in medical studies that when you do this slow stretching, it actually has an anti-inflammatory effect on connective tissue. And so they've found it to be effective with dealing with lower back pain. And I can imagine that you can extrapolate that to all other connective tissue. When you're stretching it, it has this anti-inflammatory effect. Okay? Right, so let's start. And if you can get into a comfortable seated position. So as I was mentioning before, either you can be seated like this, or you can be also seated. This is another option. You can sit on 2 blocks or 1 block, starting off by kneeling, and then you come and you sit on the block. So that's another option to try out. I actually find this a little bit uncomfortable, but it depends on everybody's body. So just experiment. Okay, so if we come to this comfortable seated position, the alternate nose breathing, I'm going to guide you through 6 rounds. Right, so let's focus on the alternate nose breathing. So this morning in the Q&A we were talking about the position of your hands. So I'm just going to come a little closer to the camera. And so there are some people who have their fingers like this, some people the fingers like this, some people like this. It doesn't matter really. The most important thing is that you can close the one nostril while you're breathing in through the other one. Okay? So we're going to start. And as I said, I will guide you through 6 rounds and then just leave you to do 2 rounds on your own. So if we just take a deep breath in and exhale out through the mouth. And then starting by closing the right nostril, breathe in the left for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Close left, exhale right. 2, 3, 4. Inhale right, 2, 3, 4. Exhale left, 2, 3, 4. That's 1 round. Inhale left, 2, 3, 4. Exhale right, 2, 3, 4. Inhale right, 2, 3, 4. Exhale left, 2, 3, 4. Inhale left, 2, 3, 4. Exhale right, 2, 3, 4. Inhale right, 2, 3, 4. Exhale left, 2, 3, 4. Inhale left, 2, 3, 4. Exhale right, 2, 3, 4. Inhale right, 2, 3, 4. Exhale left, 2, 3, 4. Inhale left, 2, 3, 4. Exhale right, 2, 3, 4. Inhale right, 2, 3, 4. Exhale left, 2, 3, 4. Inhale right, left, 2, 3, 4. Exhale right, 2, 3, 4. Inhale right, 2, 3, 4. Exhale left, 2, 3, 4. And now if you just like to continue for 2 more rounds at your own pace. And when you've finished your rounds, just bring your hands to your knees, close your eyes, and focus on the effect of the breathing technique on your body. So now slowly opening your eyes, and I hope now you're feeling more relaxed. Remember that using this pose, we can use it if we're feeling a little bit stressed. Also, if one of our nostrils are blocked, and it's usually a really effective way just to calm ourselves down. Right, okay, so let's move to the first pose here. And the first pose here, we're just going to stay on each side for 2 minutes. It's just a warming up exercise. So if you come to lying down on your back, and so lying on your back, and bring your right leg up to your chest and just hug it into your chest. So there's no adaptations here for this really. This should be accessible for most of you. And we're just going to stay here for 2 minutes. So this is a way basically for us to gently stretch the lower back. And at the same time, because you're bringing your knee towards your chest, it's a nice gentle compression on your internal organs. If you find that there's any issue with your neck, you can also lie on a pillow. So that will depend on your spine. If you feel too much of a stretch in your neck, when you're lying down, always use a pillow. Because the idea here is to have the spine neutral, and if your back is somehow not in that neutral position, you won't get the full benefit of this pose. So just breathing gently, noticing the gentle stretch. So now slowly bringing that leg down, straightening it, and immediately we're going to move to the other leg, bringing that other leg up and bringing it towards the chest. Notice the other side. I feel this side is a little tighter than the other side. Just always interesting just to observe sensations. No judging, just observing and learning. Because as we go through the yin postures, we learn so much about our body that we don't really get to know doing any other activity. Because it's so oriented around you and your understanding and knowledge of your body. What works for you, what's accessible for you, what feels good. Because there will always be some poses that will work better for you than others, just because of your body structure. Now slowly bringing that leg down, and we just stay for a minute in the rebound. So remember that pose where we're just noticing the effect on the body. So from here, we're going to move to a pose which is called Happy Baby. We did half of it in the first class. And today I'm going to show you 3 alternatives. And you may need you could need a belt. Okay, so alternative 1 is bend your knees and bring them to the chest and then out to the side. So it's like you're opening up. It's really a hip opener. Keep your pelvis on the mat. Don't tilt it upwards. We're not tilting up. We're keeping the back neutral. That's alternative 1. Alternative 2, see if you can hold on to your toes. That's alternative 2. And if you can, hold on to the outside of your hands. And if that's impossible, what you could also try to do with your belt, put your belt around like this. And see in this way if you can if this is more accessible, if you can't reach your hands, like this. Okay, so we'll be here for 3 minutes, so just experiment, find out what works for you. You can start with possibly the most accessible pose, which is like this. And then otherwise, if you can, reach your fingers like this, the fingers onto your big toes, or like this, or using the belt. So always going for the expression of this pose that feels accessible for you. Don't spend most of the time looking for something that is impossible. Always try for the version that looks to you like you can do it in an accessible way. And then if it feels easy, then you can explore other options. So always be aware of your body and explore where you can get to. Okay, and so here, as you may have noticed, the target area of this pose is, you can feel a nice stretch here in the groin muscle area, and this is a really nice hip opener. It's quite a deep hip opener. So as you're here, wherever you get to, just noticing that gentle stretching. Remember, it's always gentle stretching because we're dealing with connective tissue, which requires this gentle stress. Slowly bringing your legs down, straightening them, and relax. Okay, so now we are going to move to something a little bit more active. And this pose requires us to bring our head down. And so what I would say to anyone that has any high blood pressure issues, perhaps just sit this one out, or go very carefully. If you feel any dizzy sensation, then always come up slowly. So this position, if you all come to a standing position, this position is called dangling. So if you come to a standing position, okay, and so the most important thing here is to bend the knees. So we start off with bending the knees. So if you would like to watch me and observe and then experiment with the two options, I'm going to show you two alternatives. So alternative one, bending the knees, of course, I come forward and I lean my elbows on my knees and my head hangs. I'm not looking forward, I'm just letting my head hang. Option one. And option two, just bringing my head down and literally dangling my head like this. You can also let your hands fall to the mat. Okay, so experiment with this. As I mentioned before, if you feel any sensation that's uncomfortable or you feel a little dizzy, please come out very slowly, always coming out very slowly out of these poses. And if you are hanging, as I am here, because the idea here is to dangle, so we are literally allowing the vertebra just to separate from each other. It's one of the greatest ways to relax the lower back. Because if you imagine during the day, our lumbar spine is always compressed because we are always sitting, or mostly always sitting. And here, because it's literally suspended, there's no compression, so it's a great release. So that is one target area. And of course, the other target area, you'll be feeling the hamstrings. There's a nice stretch in the hamstrings. And if you can bring your chest towards your knees, there's a nice compression as well of your internal organs. So just making sure your head is hanging and enjoying this stretch. And now slowly bring your hands and put your hands on the mat. Separate your feet and slowly bring yourself into a squat. Now this is a position that most people, most of the students that I've had find it really difficult. So what I would suggest is you take 2 blocks and you put the blocks underneath your heels, because that will really help you to access this pose. And then once you're in this position, it also helps you with balance. And then once you're in this position, you can either have your hands in front of you in a prayer position. That's option 1. And then option 2, you can actually bring your head forward and put your hands behind your head, not pulling, but just resting them here, because in this way we're giving a nice stretch to the entire back. But of course it depends on you, so always looking for the option that is accessible for you. And of course here what you will definitely be feeling, what most people feel here, is this stretch to the quadriceps, to the front part of the legs, and also, of course, this decompression of your lumbar, because once again your back is suspended in the air, and so it's a great release for the back. If you feel unbalanced, if you feel you don't have a lot of balance, you can also, as I said, bring yourself a little bit forward, because in that way you can find a little bit more balance. So just experiment with that. You may also find it quite challenging for the ankles and the shin area. And this is once again because we're not used to squatting. In the past, we used to squat a lot more. Actually, this is one of the best ways to open up your hips. So if you want to, if you're obsessed with opening up your hips, you can try and sit and squat every day. It's all about just working and stretching slowly. Okay. Right. Okay. So slowly come out of that position. And we're going to do a nice rebound pose. So just bringing your legs out in front of you, your hands behind you, and just resting. Observing particularly your legs, which have been working hard, but also observing your breath, because of course these last two poses are quite challenging. So just observing your breath and coming back to your breath, calming your breath. Okay, so we move now to another very restorative pose, which is the reclining child's pose. So it's quite similar to the one that we did at the beginning. Basically lie down and bring your knees to your chest. If you would like, this is alternative one, if you want to continue with opening your chest, opening your hips, you can open your hips, open your knees, and your big toes are touching. So you can see that it's sort of almost like a butterfly pose. So that's option one, which is, it's basically the reclining version of what we do when we are in a seated position. And the reason that we do it in this reclining pose, is because many people find even the child's pose they find not very accessible, perhaps because of the tops of their feet, perhaps because of their ankles, and perhaps even because they find it uncomfortable to rest their chest on their thighs. But in this way, the chest is totally relaxed, so we can have a nice stretch of the lower back. There's the nice compression on the internal organs, but it is a very restorative pose. And once again, it's a good one for any digestion issues. So once again, bringing the attention to your breath. Okay, so slowly bring your legs down and rock yourself up into a seated position. And from here, if you normally sit on a bolster, then grab your bolster. We're going to be doing caterpillar, which is another one of those poses, which is it's great for the lower back. So caterpillar, we can either be sitting on a bolster or without a bolster, whichever feels more accessible for you, because if you find it challenging moving forward, if you are seated on the mat, then you should definitely be seated on a bolster. There are two alternatives here. Alternative 1, the legs are together. Alternative 2, the legs are apart. And the focus of this pose is the hamstrings. So I'd like you to experiment with where do you feel the stretch the most. So start off with if your feet together and moving your torso forward, and then just check in with your hamstrings to feel if you feel anything. If you don't feel too much, you can open them up. So this is a way for you to experiment. And when we go forward, we are going forward with a rounded back. If you have blocks or something else, you can also lean onto the blocks. Okay, so once again, 2 minutes. So we are rounding the back here to release all those little ligaments along the spinal column. So the back is not straight, it's rounded. And at the same time, you should be feeling that nice stretch. In your hamstrings. Remember always to go in gently into these poses. Find where your limit is. And basically your limit is where your body says to you, no more. And then just stay and observe. And after some time, your body could say, it could invite you to move deeper. But sometimes it doesn't, because sometimes that is the limit of your body, which could be what we call compression, or it could be tension. And the main the biggest obstacle of those two is compression. So compression is bone against bone, and that's when, for physical reasons, you can't move any further. There are other ones, but when it's bone against bone, there's no ways you're going anywhere. Tension is, could be muscular. It could be a number of other issues. But often in other types of activities, there's a focus more on tension and less of a concern with compression. And compression is related to our unique skeletal structure. And that's why I talk so much about how everyone's different and how everyone can do, when everyone does a pose, it looks different. Because we need to navigate around our different skeletal structure. Okay, so now very slowly, remember we always come out very slowly out of these poses. Come out very slowly. And as we did before, just lean back and relax. Right, we're going to move now to another pose where we'll be on our back. And in this pose we will be, the target area will be to feel, you should be feeling what we call the gluteal muscles on the outside of the hips. And so the hip, the leg which is crossed over is where you should feel this, this stretch. So let me show you. So if we lie down, I'm going to show you with my right leg. So we bend both the legs, bring the right leg on top of the left. And now just check in with your muscles on the right hip area. Do you feel a tug in the muscles there? If you feel nothing, then you can bring your foot up a little bit. And if you still feel nothing, you can bring your hands on top of your shin or your hands underneath your knee and bring that the knee towards your chest. Okay, you can also use the belt if that's interesting for you. If you want to try that, you can bring the belt and you can put it over the shin or over the foot, whichever feels accessible for you. So we're going to be here for 3 minutes on each side. The important thing here, what I would say, possibly the most important thing is, please observe your knee. If you have any sensations of pain in your knee, please adjust it. And depending on your body, you can either adjust by bringing your foot in towards your groin or out towards your knee. So this will depend on on the position of your femur and your hip. So I can't tell you which one is good for you because I don't know. I can't see what the position of your femur is in your hip. So only you can find out by actually experimenting. So if you feel where you have your foot now, that it is comfortable and you're feeling a nice stretch in the muscles on the right, then you are fine. You don't need to do anything. But if you start to feel any tingling or uncomfortable sensation in the knee, always change, because the knee and the shoulder are these two joints in the body that we really need to take care of, because they're quite fragile. And of course, they're quite fundamental to our everyday life. So always being aware of them and respecting them, basically. And once again, as the knee is towards the chest, there's a nice compression on the internal organs. And so if you feel your mind is wandering away, remember just to bring it back with your breath. Anchor your attention on your breath. Slowly bring those legs down and relax. And now the other side. So once again, bending both knees and then bringing the left, crossing over the right, staying in this position, or lifting the knee towards the chest. Once again here for 3 minutes. And enjoy this moment of peace and quiet with yourself and with your mind. And initially, when we do this practice, it's one of the most difficult things. Just being able to be calm and try to focus on sensations in the body and the breath. Basically, in order to give your busy mind a break. To allow it to relax as well. So as well as relaxing our body, we are also allowing the mind to relax. It helps us to feel more renewed. Okay, so bringing those legs down and relaxing once again. So now we're going to move to the last of today's poses, and this is the reclining twist. And so for this one you will need a block. I recommend starting with the block. Later, if you don't need it, you can move it away. And so from here, the first time we did this, I suggested to you that you bring your knees towards your chest and then bring them out towards the side, leaning onto a block. Here we have the arms either out, shoulder height, or in a cactus position. I prefer my arms out to the sides because I find a compression painful on the top of my shoulders. So in terms of the legs can be higher up, and as I mentioned, the higher up the knees, the more the twist is in the upper back. But if you would like to experiment bringing the knees further down, where the twist will be more in the lower back, you could experiment with that today. Okay, so whichever you choose, let's move into this pose, and we're going to be here for 3 minutes. So either bringing them high up and letting them go to the side, or bringing them a little bit lower down and to the side. So what I would always recommend is find the option, always using blocks. You can also use 2 blocks. So experiment using the option that is accessible to you. So Charles, maybe you can use some more blocks. So you could have more of a rest for your knees. So always remember to work within your limits. And if you have the 2 knees on the floor and you would like to experiment, you could take the block away and see how that feels without the block. But remember, without the block, it will be more of a twist. So you would feel that more either in your lower back or your the upper back, depending the position of your knees. And so of course we do the twist to get rid of any tension in the spine. And also, once again, by twisting, it's nice and healthy for the internal organs. And now slowly bringing those knees up towards your chest, and let's hug the knees into the chest and breathe. Just breathing the relaxation to your lumbar spine, relaxing there. And now bringing your knees to the other side. So if you were moving towards the right, now move your knees towards the left. Allow them to relax there. And enjoy the feeling of stretch. So you should feel a nice stretch along from the top of your shoulder along your abdomen to the other side. Try to relax your shoulder and your arms. It's an area that I always notice has a lot of tension when I do this pose. So it's always useful to bring your attention to that area. Breathing, focusing on the breathing, perhaps counting your breath to keep focused and anchored in that breath, that slow healing breath. And now slowly bring your knees up to your chest, and let's hug the knees in to the chest. Taking deep breaths. And you can slowly move from side to side, giving a nice little massage to the lumbar area. And now is the time for you to relax. So I will accompany you in this relaxation. So what I would recommend is find a blanket. So go and find a blanket and switch off the light if you feel like being quiet and calm. or you can be seated if you prefer that. It depends on you. If you are lying down, as I mentioned yesterday, you can also bend your knees. You can have a bolster underneath your knees, always looking for what suits you best. So let's lie down and first of all adjust the body so you feel that your body is relaxed. You don't have to move around too much. And then let's just move the attention to the abdomen and take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And now, because the focus of this sequence has basically included starting from the feet with the second pose, let's just move down the attention and start with the feet. So I'd like you just to move your attention to your toes and tense up your toes, squeeze your toes really hard and then release them. And feel how the tension comes away. And then check in with your feet. Do they feel relaxed? Do your ankles feel relaxed? Just check in there, because the squat is sometimes quite an intense pose for the ankles and also for the lower part of your leg. So just slowly move your tension up the leg until you get to your knee. And here also feeling the knee relaxed and open, checking in with any uncomfortable sensations you may feel. And then moving up the quadriceps that we're working quite hard today, and the hamstrings, as well as the glute muscles on the side of the hips. So all that area was quite active today. And then we move to the hips. Lots of hip opening today. And once again, we are in the abdominal area, noticing the movement of the breath. And now bring your attention, if you can imagine your attention on the lower part of your spine. And then imagine your attention moving up, your awareness moving up your spine. Just noticing if it feels more relaxed, if that nice dangling and squat has helped to relax that area. And once again, bringing the attention back to your breath. So let's start to wake up the body, moving fingers and toes, making circles with the ankles and the wrists. And then we close the legs. With a deep inhale, stretch the arms above the head. Stretch out the whole body. And then bring the arms down by your sides. Bend your knees. Allow the knees to fall to one side. And push yourself into a seated position. Okay, so thank you very much for sharing this time with me. I hope you are feeling that your back has relaxed and that in general you're feeling more relaxed and ready for a nice, if you are in Europe, a nice sleeping time. If you are in America, well, enjoy the rest of your day. And I hope to see some of you tomorrow, and thank you very much for accompanying me. And if you have any questions, remember, please send me a message or write some comment on Facebook. And thanks once again, and good night or good afternoon. Bye-bye.